the sacraments.
The people in the Philippines who literally nail themselves to crosses and stuff.
The Protestant equivalent is to just get buck with your uncle. Just like bump EDM with your uncle, wearing tank tops, being like, I can't believe we made it, uncle. I love you, nephew. That's the Protestant equivalent.
It goes, Falwell's advocacy for loans given by the university to his friends and Falwell's awarding university contracts to businesses owned by his friends. Quote, "We're not a school, we're a real estate hedge fund," said a senior university official with inside knowledge of Liberty's finances.
So they are a real university.
He goes, "We're not educating, we're buying real estate every year and taking students' money to do it." Which is like, okay, true, but NYU does the exact same thing, but like maintains a semblance that it's a real educational institution.
Yeah.
It's the most expensive school in the country, and guess what? They own like half of Lower Manhattan. Like it is pure real estate speculation.
Johns Hopkins uses their medical facilities to indebt people in the surrounding areas, and then when they go bankrupt, they take their houses to expand their facilities.
So in actuality, Liberty University is, in its shady corruption, significantly less evil than Johns Hopkins, NYU. And that article that came out this week about how UVA is just driving people into medical bankruptcy who use their facilities.
I mean, like in my fantasy about making it so America doesn't have 50 states, how gratifying it would be for there not to be a Texan identity anymore.
That would be great.
That's moved down to second most gratifying thing in my fantasies now. Most gratifying would be nationalizing every single university and distributing their endowment. That would be wonderful.
Oh my God, get rid of all that horse shit.
Good.
Liberty employees detailed other instances of Falwell's behavior that they see as falling short of the standard of conduct they expect from conservative Christian leaders. From partying at nightclubs to graphically discussing his sex life with employees to electioneering that makes them uneasy, even those who fondly remember the heyday of the late Reverend Jerry Falwell Sr., the school's founder and Falwell Jr.'s father, and his moral majority. Now, this will become like there's a big part of the plot here, but we should mention that the big inciting incident of the Righteous Gemstones is Danny McBride's character, Jesse Gemstone, who is the son of the patriarchal evangelical Christian leader, Eli Gemstone, played by John Goodman, gets sent a video of him and his boys at a prayer conference in a hotel room, snorting blow and partying with prostitutes. And they're having a good old time, and then it's a blackmail plot that kicks off the show. Is that Jesse is being extorted by someone who has access to a video of him and his boys partying with cocaine and strippers.
Yeah.
So, again, this is the real details of this story are even more enticing. In January, the Wall Street Journal reported that in the run-up to Trump's presidential campaign, Cohen hired John Gager, a Liberty University employee who runs a private consulting firm. This guy Gager will come back as like a big feature of the.
Yeah, he's sort of the he's the Guccifer of Liberty University.
Yeah. He hired Gager to manipulate online polls in Trump's favor. Not previously reported is the fact that according to a half dozen high-level Liberty University sources, when Gager traveled to New York to collect payment from Cohen, he was joined by Trey Falwell. That's, again, Jerry Falwell Jr.'s son, who's also a vice president at Liberty University. During that trip, Trey posted a now-deleted photo to Instagram of around $12,000 in cash spread on a hotel bed, raising questions about his knowledge of Gager's poll rigging work. Trey did not respond to requests for comment. Again, another major plot point in Gemstones is that the person who is recorded the video and is blackmailing Jesse Gemstone is his own son. Who he's like the eldest son who he's kicked out of the house for going against his Christian teachings.
And this time he's not going against him. He's just being a complete dipshit in the family tradition.
Oh my God. Like, imagine these people doing Watergate.
It's like doing a selfie with the open door. Like, you don't even have to worry about putting the fucking tape on wrong. You're just like, like My Life a Movie.
Yeah. Yo, big things coming. This is literally like... I guess this shows Danny McBride's strength. I was going to say you can't parody this. Only one person can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to add one thing to that. I know it's in there later, but I want to say now because you brought it up.
Yeah.
So he got $12,000 from Michael Cohen to rig these polls, but the agreed upon amount had been $20,000. He goes to New York, and Michael Cohen says to him, "Well, I don't have $20,000, but here's $12,000 and match-worn MMA gloves."
From Andrei Arlovsky.
No,
which is such a Trump thing to do. It's like, all right, we're not going to give you what you said. We're going to give you about half of what we told you, and then some sweaty gym gear that we found in the drawer of my desk.
Michael Cohen was the chief of operations for Affliction.
That's true, yes.
The MMA, the T-shirt company's MMA promotion. And Affliction tried to compete with the UFC in the heavyweight division. So I don't know who those gloves are. I imagine the article doesn't say.
No,
it doesn't say.
So they could be from Fedor Emelianenko, who is at one time ranked as the best heavyweight in the world by some.
So you're saying it could have been a fair deal?
No. They're still not worth the missing half of that money.
You're saying that you can't fulfill contracts with sports memorabilia?
I mean, like, you could maybe find something of equal value, but that is not of equal value. That's just horseshit. That's just, and they're probably not Fedor's gloves. Like, knowing the Trump people, they were probably Tim Sylvia's gloves.
So the idea is they still took the gloves and the $12,000, and then his nitwit son Treyway Falwell.
Scum gang! Socialists can't understand me.
So Treyway Falwell takes the cash and then spreads it out on the hotel bed and posts it on Instagram for clout. And he's like, I'm different. We out here doing corruption.
Not even doing it right. Like, just totally gets fucked on this deal by the world's dumbest lawyer. A guy who isn't even paid for his legal services. He gets completely bamboozled for. Like, he just had Tim Sylvia's gloves sitting in his office, and he was like, I've got to get rid of these. Who's a dumber guy than me?
So it goes on here to say, members of the Liberty University community are generally reluctant to go on the record. The school uses non-disclosure agreements to prohibit many university employees or board members from openly discussing what they've seen Falwell do. All trustees sign a confidentiality agreement that does not expire at the close of board service. Liberty's attorney told board members in an email that was sent earlier this month after the school received inquiries from reporters on some issues outlined in this article. Tenure and its protections are not available to Liberty faculty members outside the law school. If you teach or work at Liberty, you must get approval from Falwell's office before you speak to the media. It's a dictatorship, one current high-level employee of the school said. Nobody craps at the university without Jerry's approval. Everybody is scared for their life. Everybody walks around in fear, said a current university employee who agreed to speak for this article only after purchasing a burner phone, fearing that Falwell was monitoring their communications. This fear is not limited to Liberty's campus. Several people who lack any tie to Liberty but live in the school's hometown of Lynchburg, Virginia, refuse to go on the record for the story, fearing Falwell would take revenge upon them and their families. Okay, I'm going to set up another parallel with the Gemstones. One of the first things you see in Gemstones is after they return from a mission to China, they are whisked back to their giant compound that includes an amusement park that they make money off of and all of the palatial McMansions that they live in. As they're driving in, I don't know if you guys remember this, one of the first things they show you in the Gemstone compound is a private security team just like unloading clips at a firing range.
Yes.
So like they have this like compound and like pseudo militia. Like I said, they're like a pseudo state within a state that is based on, you know, the big business of the gospel, of religion. There's another great moment in a later episode where they introduce the Walton Goggins character. And the whole fear and intimidation thing too, like they literally try to like assault a rival preacher who's like, there's competition among preachers, and like the way they portray religion as big business is really funny. There's a scene where they open up a prayer center in like a now like disused Sears in a mall, and the Kelvin Gemstone character played by Adam Devine says, he's like, capitalism's crumbling everywhere, sis. That's where we move in.
Yeah.
And it's just like that, like all these malls are closing all over America, and then like the idea that they're all just becoming these evangelical tent poles, like they're buying up all the property and just like expanding their empire.
Yeah.
And the idea of like Lynchburg as a kind of company town where people literally live in fear of like, you know, the commandant, Jerry Falwell Jr. is a very real thing. And again, like Gemstones communicates that incredibly well with Goodman's kind of sort of like menacing patriarchal energy and sort of feigned politeness and civility that masks a deep-seated sort of just greed and lust for power and property.
It is. I want to take an aside to say Goodman's performance in it, like every performance on the show is wonderful, great, perfect. But Goodman's is the best. I would have to say. It is perfect, menacing evangelical patriarch. Perfect.
Okay, so long before his May 2007 death, by the way, rotten hell to the original Reverend Jerry Falwell
Piece of
Sr.
shit.
By the
Piece
way,
of
everyone
shit.
who talks in this article speaks reverently about, and they're
Yeah.
like, Jerry Jr. is fucking it up, and like Jerry Sr., the man was a giant. He
Yeah.
was a saint. Jerry Falwell Sr., one of the most repellent, malignant forces in American life,
and
without a doubt.
at the end of the thing, they lament that this great man who built this great institution is now seeing it mishandled by his shitty kid. I'm sorry, but that's the world he created on purpose. He had a church and a university bequeathed to his kids like they were fucking Arby's franchises that he owned. He was instrumental in maintaining a system of total power for people at the top who are then able to distribute it to no one else but their own circle of shitty children. That's what you get. You get Jerry Falwell Jr. in this fucking system. He got what he fucking wanted. Sorry.
Not only that, but they go on in like later in the article to talk about how Falwell Jr.'s sort of seedy electioneering and political relationship with the Trump administration is sort of like untoward to their religious sensibilities. It's like, no, like Jerry Falwell Sr. created the moral majority, which created the modern insane Republican Party.
Yes.
Of just a snake pit of just fascist lunatics.
Yeah, where you don't have to, after a certain point, you stop giving a shit about putting a good face on it. Just like
Exactly.
Trump with his 2 Corinthians, which he said at Liberty University, and these guys all ate it up, and Jerry Falwell Jr. These are the guys you get. Eventually, all of the propriety and all of the rituals of piousness go out the window when
by
you
the
just
way-
keep handing it down to your shittier and shittier kids.
We Murder Brian from Street Fight Night just recorded our first episode of our Shock Jock